Hello. Hello, this is John Nathan, and we wanted to let you know your therapy's showing. We can see it. And welcome back. And we're here to discuss on 2026, the beginning of the year, January 2nd, our subject matter expert of therapy showing through their work or through their effort. And the most happiest of birthdays to Dax Randall Shepard of Armchair Expert and of Parenthood fame. Known originally from my generation as the guy from Punk'd, who had all of us out there purchasing our Cox Cable Communications packages so that we could have MTV, understanding that there was a new era in town, a new it boy in Hollywood who was showing everybody just how it was and just what it was like to be from the country or from anywhere other than Hollywood, which has been a nice turn and shift and change from the way that he presents himself, from the way that he presents his information, bringing that the the touchstone of society back into the conversation that says, we can live in elitism without having to be elite to others. We can live with success without having to allow for your persona to override your person. And he brings that excellence through each of his work, through each of his interactions, through each of his practices. And to understand how that type of therapy can be observed through others is something that we have to separate from the highlights of characters like Tom Marshall from Without a Paddle, or Vince Downey from Employee of the Month. Movies that were made to entertain us comically, but also show inspiration or show activity or action. And then we get into some of the highlights of ideal comedy like Frito Pendejo from Idiocracy, where we just have actual art imitating life in that retrospect. And to understand the way that he views his comedy and brings it, it is a different version of hilariousness because there are morals, there are lessons, there are ethics to the way that he presents his information. And we see that directly through his personal, written, directed, and starred in efforts like Chips from 2017 or Hit and Run from 2012, which I believe was his first writer, director, actor credit. And to know that he brought his entire family into that movie, brought his crew and brought them into a space for him to be able to direct. It's a very personal thing to be doing. It's a very cautious relationship to have with those that you need to do something for you, but that you also love and cherish and want to keep around. And so as we bring the information of your therapy is showing forward to say, we've been through our pop princesses, we've been through some of the highlights of the music and the sounds and the version of cognitive flexibility and mindful emotional awareness that we're catching through the people who put themselves out there. That is the glory of someone like Dax Shepard, who puts himself out there for review and you can tell from his soul that he hates to be ridiculed or reviewed or critiqued. But he still does it every single day and brings the rationale of why he feels welcome in his own spaces, how he makes others feel welcome in his own space. And it's further than just knowing, like, he does transcendental meditation. That is a practice that brings an ability to be in a cognitively flexible place, to understand that mindful emotional awareness is paramount to the things that you're doing in your life. And to bring that from the original bad boy persona that we all bought and paid for is different than understanding what it was like to be an it boy in those early 2000s careers. The way that they were ushered into sex, drugs, rock and roll, speed, weed, no birth control. And the way that we were sold that from them. And not to say that, he was out there telling us all to be bad people. It was tabloid and commercial and sales and marketing pitches showing us, like, you can be just like all of these douchebag guys who have the hot girl if you act in this way. And through time and through observation, we've been able to identify not everybody agreed with that back then. Not everybody was able to understand how to be verbal or vocalized about that. And since the dawn of time, but specifically since January 2nd of 1975, Dax Shepard has been avidly working towards figuring that out and bringing us his findings, like the Uncle Traveling Mac from Fraggle Rock. And bless Michigan and the Michiganders and the people who bring that reality to life, who are the salt of the earth and who know that it is difficult to interact and to deal with the salt of the earth if you are not open-minded. And then again, if you are too open-minded, it brings it brings the research and the development of what you're trying to do to a place that requires a little bit of cognitive flexibility, a little bit of alternative viewpoints to be allowed in the conversation. And from the timeline and from the time frame that I know that he grew up in, I understand from that space and that time that that was not available, which means he had to not only source that and bring that to us and show us directly, hey, we can be cool. You can be masculine and still have gay friends. You can be a man and still support women. And while that sounds like it's something that should just be a given today, that was not a given 25 years ago. Same thing with him and his beautiful wife, Kristen Bell, getting married in 2013 by making a proclamation that says we want to get married when our friends are able to get married. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to stand for that. They did not have to bring that attention nationally. They did not have to put that out there for us to have the example that says, this is allyship. This is how important that is to them. And to know that he supported not only that community, but then his own relationship and his own marriage, bringing that version of understanding and compromise and compassion forward. And for somebody who's been in the middle of not only being browbeaten by tabloids, being Kristen Bell's husband, being Jimmy Kimmel fodder, understanding that, he puts himself out there for his work, and he does not always get the best reception. And he's very vocal about that, and he's very prominent in the understanding that that's work for him. That's work that he has to work on. He has to understand how to negotiate that within himself. And I know this because it's been the source of inspiration, not just for my sobriety, which we do celebrate for Dax Shepard. In 2004, starting a sobriety journey was not in my interests, but knowing in 2019 when it was necessary for me to find the one voice or the person who I know puts that amount of work into something, made the effort necessary to me. Like, if he's able to do this for 20 some years, regardless of a relapse or a understanding that becomes overbearing or overwhelming for him as an individual, that he was still able to pursue the goal to share the understanding of AA and of his steps that he's on or that he's taken or that he is taking, and to know that he recommitted to that in 2020 publicly on day 7, to bring that to us, to say, what life is. Life is, I've made mistake. I've understood where that mistake is, and I'm pursuing the thing that was more important to me, which is sobriety. Not everybody makes that fucking choice. Not everybody puts that choice out there for us to be able to see the negotiation within their mind, so that we have the understanding, so that we have the example, so that we know when we need to, our therapy can also show. So a very merry birthday to Dax Randall Shepard of notoriety from Armchair Expert Podcast, Parenthood, Bless This Mess, but for me, Punked, and and Tabloids and Entertainment Tonight. But seriously, from the understanding of his work and leisure through movement and mobility, his commitment to diet and nutrition and exercise fits in directly with the things that we are now learning are paramount and absolute to having the best mental abilities and the best mental health in your life. And while practicing that transcendental meditation shows his ability to become cool and calm and collected when he wants to get activated and understood in a way that maybe his voice needs to be louder or that his presence needs to be bigger. And yet he still brings that and reels it into a manageable place to demonstrate that he can be a leader and a patriarch and a founding member and a participating member of his own home and family and crew. That he has interests that lie beyond what's going on in the moment, but that he brings his interests to himself and to us so that we see, there's no idle time. He's busy. He's working on things, and not because he's so busy that he's working on things. He's found the things that gather his interest, that keep him directed, that keep him focused. And some of those things are very important to me specifically, like his level of research and development, his interview skills. These are like special skills of open conversation, offering alternative viewpoints from people who don't usually offer that version of alternative viewpoint, who don't allow for there to be another version of how something could be. And that's how we were able to gain allyship through the 2000s with people like him who were able to, not necessarily your therapy's showing, but your your ability to see beyond yourself is showing. Your ability to offer alternative viewpoints and to feature discussion through cognitive reasoning as a man is showing and has been demonstrated to so many men that have been or become allies through the years of times when that just wasn't existent. So we bring Dr. Randall Shepard forward as our subject matter expert for Your Therapy's Showing. And we appreciate y'all listening here on Your Therapy's Showing. And I'm John Nathan, and we bring and ring in the new year of 2026. It is January 2nd, which is Dr. Randall Shepard's birthday, and we are opening Your Therapy's Showing with a tribute to him. All right, look at your life and look at your choices, and let's make sure that we are ringing in this new year with a calm and collected view of how we wish to perceive and pursue the way that we bring ourselves to each engagement and interaction that offer the mindful emotional awareness that we're looking for and that we see in others, that offer the cognitive flexibility that we need to be able to relate to others, and that offer those alternative perspectives and alternative actions that allow us to interact better with others.